Hello and welcome back to creating a horror game from scratch. First off, quick apologies on the delay for this episode. My game is nearing alpha, chain guns, and chainmail, and I'm gonna need some alpha testers, so I will leave a link to that Discord in the description below. Last time we covered putting a flashlight in our hand, making it feel and look realistic, not static. Having a little bit of delay, a little bit of sway to it, as well as a little bit of a walking animation, and a button that we can use to turn the flashlight on and off. Today I wanted to show you something called the cube grid. This is something that a lot of new people to Unreal Engine are unaware of, and it's incredibly powerful whenever it comes to prototyping your levels, and in some cases actually creating geometry for your levels. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control Space. I'm going to go to my BPs, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Levels. I'm going to open that bad boy up. We're going to right click, and we're going to create a new level. I'm just going to call this level underscore house map. I just did something random. I don't really have a specific use case for it, or a naming convention for it. We are going to open that up. As you can see, we're in a completely dark black scene. This is a problem because we need to fill it with things. So before we start doing anything, I'm going to show you something very simple you can do to very quickly get yourself some lighting. Now, yes, you can go to lit and turn it off, so therefore it's unlit. Everything just kind of goes out into the scene and looks terrible. We'll use the BP key just as an example. You can see it's there and it looks mid. And trust me, if it had textures on it, it would look even worse. So this is one way to go about it, but I have a preferred way. So if we go up here to the top, and we're going to click on the quickly add to project button, and I'm going to go down to lights. We're actually going to pick a skylight. So I'm going to pull it out of the orb here just so we can see it. And we're going to switch back to the lit mode. Obviously, the orb is going to completely disappear because we have no lighting. And in order to set up the skylight, what we're going to do is on the right-hand side with the skylight selected, on the source type, we're actually going to switch this to a specified cube map. Okay, so basically you can do a captured scene. So basically you can get more realistic lighting for your scene by giving it an example or a position in your actual level. Then it uses that as a way to light up the scene. Therefore, the bouncing light and everything looks better. We're not going to worry about any of that right now. What we're going to do is we're just going to use a specified cube map. And that cube map, I like to use, if you scroll down, you can use any of these, but I prefer the dark gray texture. And the reason I like to use the dark gray texture is because it's very colorless. Therefore, it's not going to be adding color to anything in the scene. And you'll see we've already got that ball completely lit up. And the thing is, it's not just from one angle, like a directional light will get you. It's literally all the way around, even the bottom. The bottom's a bit darker because it is emulating a sky. So therefore, the light from the bottom is going to be darker, but it's still there. So that's what we'll use as our default light. Let's go ahead and click on our little BP key here and delete it. And now that we have some lighting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift 5. Now, by hitting Shift 5, it switches to modeling mode. Now, you can hit this drop-down menu up here and go from selection to modeling. I just like to remember the hotkey Shift 5. And like I said, today we are going to focus on the cube grid. So if you go ahead and click on create and then go to cube grid, you'll see that we get a grid. So what exactly is this grid? Well, if we click somewhere, you'll see right there it says 100 by 100. That's the size of the square that has been selected. And we press E, and we press E, and we press E. It's going to keep making 100 by 100 cubes on top of each other. The good news, by the way, is this is one solid mesh. So if I was to hit accept, you'll see this is not 4 cubes, it's actually a solid mesh. And what's so crazy about the cube grid is if I have this cube grid object selected, or a random static mesh, it can be anything, but specifically what we just created, make sure it's selected and go back to the cube grid, we can go back to editing this thing. Now, obviously, if we keep pressing E, we're just going to keep growing this thing. But if we press Q, it'll also erase. So we can do a little bit of both. Obviously, we're making huge chunks of grid at a time here. But what we can do is we can actually shrink that. So if we go over here to the left-hand side, you'll see we have a grid power. It's by default 5. That's what gives you that 100 by 100 square. However, if we click on this and we drop it to like 3, for example, you'll notice the grid actually got smaller. And if you look, now we have a 4 by 4 section that we have selected instead of 1. So therefore, if we were to click, now look how small it is. So I could then press Q, and now we've got in the inside of this as well. You can see how if you keep toying with this, you could end up actually making quite a few different objects that you could use. You could even drop this to 1, and then now look how small it is, make even minor adjustments like that. And while we're on the topic of just learning about the tool, I'm going to go back to the grid power of 5, so back to the default where we were getting the 100 by 100 cubes, and I'm at the top here actually going to click on corner mode. So the reason this is important, actually, hold on one moment, I'm going to hit cancel. So it goes back to the cube grid. I'm going to click up here at the top first. So we've actually got something selected. Then I'm going to click on the corner mode. And you'll see that we've got 4 corners that have 4 little dots on them now. If I was to click on one of these dots and I press Q, which as you remember, Q is to pull back, whereas E was to go forward or create. If I press Q, it will literally delete that corner and create a pivot in the top of this mesh. So now it's got 2 faces instead of 1. And I can even click on this one and bring it up. Oh, you know what happened there? So what's happening is I have to commit before I click another corner. So when I clicked this one, it just simply added it to the change and brought it down as well. So let's go ahead and commit that really quick. Let's keep this selected, hit corner mode again, and now I'll click at a different corner. And we'll press E, and as you can see, it does some pretty funky stuff sometimes. Like for example, I don't know why it created all of that. It might just have to do with the fact that this whole thing is selected, so therefore it tried to create mesh in the area that was brought down. This tool is not perfect, and it's not meant necessarily to make your whole game out of, but you could, especially if you're not doing something that's like super high fidelity. Anyways, that's a recap of the tool. I'm going to go ahead and hit accept, which by the way, whenever you do hit accept and you've got a model like this, you can reuse it over and over again, because on the right hand side, you see static mesh. If we click on the browse, we can actually see that it is in levels generated B-Wink, because that's the user that's using Unreal right now. And here it is. And we could literally just pull it in and use it over and over as a static mesh. However, for now, I am going to go ahead and delete it. We don't need that. So why did I bring you to an empty level and show you the cube grid? Well, the reason, if I can get the dock to go away, the reason is because we are going to go ahead and work on making a basic house, and we're also going to get free materials. I'm going to show you a nice website where we can get free materials and start materializing all of the things we're putting into the house. So therefore, in your haunted game, horror game, you can go ahead and start building out your levels. And if these mixtures of materials and tools work for you, you might even be able to make your game out of just these 2 tools and the code that I've taught you. But it's important to know you can also use this for prototyping as well. So like, let's say you have an idea for a level, but you don't want to put a whole bunch of time into modeling the level out. You could easily crank out a block out level with this system and test it before you even make it. Anyway, okay. So when we're going to make a basic house, the first thing we want is a floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop the grid power. The reason is that is the current grid power, and that's a thick ass floor. Just as a reference, let's pull in a skeletal mesh. So something that is really important to do anytime you're working and creating an environment, especially if you're using static meshes that you're not 100% sure of the size of, is you can actually go into, like, for example, I'm going to go into first person arms, I'm going to go into the character, and then we're going to go into the mesh. So obviously, the arms aren't going to be super great, but it's still something that we can use. So if I was to pull this in, there you go. That would be the size of your arms, and that's the size that we're building at currently. What I actually recommend, so we'll do it just because I think it's good to show you. Yes, we want to close. So let's get rid of these arms as well. We are going to create, actually we might not have to, but just to be safe we will. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call this third person. We're going to open that up, and if you right click, you'll see at the top we actually have add feature or content pack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that, and you'll see here's all the starter kit stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on third person, and we're going to add it to the project. This might take just a moment, but the main reason we're doing this is we're actually going to have access to the full mannequin instead of just the arms. Now, if you have a character mesh that you plan on using, use that, but I don't. So we're just going to go ahead and use the third person mannequin as a way to scale the stuff we're building. All right. Once it's finished, you should be able to open up third person and you'll have blueprints, input, and maps. Go ahead and open up the third person blueprint and just go ahead and pull in that blueprint class. Now, obviously, it's going to have the camera attached to it and things of that nature. I think you might actually just be able to access the mannequin in here somewhere. Maybe not. Regardless, it's fine. Just go to third person blueprints. And we can pull the mannequin out, and there we go. Now we have a reference to the size of the player and what an adult would roughly be size-wise. So let's go ahead and start working back with the cube grid. Make sure your mannequin isn't selected. If you click on this mannequin or have anything selected when you go to start the cube grid, you are now editing the mannequin. If I start adding stuff and I hit accept, that stuff we just added, oh, it won't let us. Okay, it's warning us that it won't let us. I'm covering it. It's over here. But the warning still stands. If anything is selected and you start editing it with the cube grid, you're editing that specific thing. So when you go to open the cube grid, just hit escape. Make sure nothing is selected, then press cube grid. Okay. So let's start working with different cube grid sizes to find roughly what we'd want for a floor. I'm going to go ahead and take the cube grid and set it to like 2. I've worked with it enough to know that it should be about what you would want. That's about the thickness of a floor. So we'll go ahead and use 2. I think 2 will work just fine. So if this is the size of our person and they're standing in the middle of, like, I don't know, let's just say the living room to start. That's probably not quite big enough, because if we had like a couch here and a TV here, they wouldn't have much space to go through. So I'm thinking we need to increase the size of this a little bit more. And there we go. I would say it's a little bit small for a living room, but if it was a small house for like one person, that'd be about right. So with all that selected, I will now press E, and there we go. We now have a floor for our living room. And with it selected here, or with us nice and completed, I'm going to press accept. Now, you don't want to build too much off of one cube grid. And the reason for that is because if you start building too much, it's harder to apply your materials later on. To explain what I mean, if we were to build the walls and floor on the exact same cube grid mesh, so let's say we then built walls onto this, it's going to have, well, they've changed it. Sorry, I'm realizing now they've changed it. But the point being, it would all be one material. Now, if you do it correctly, you can make them separate materials, but you're doing a lot of work that's not necessary. So whenever you build something out like a floor, just make it the floor. Don't overcomplicate it and add the walls and the windows and everything, okay? So here's our floor for the living room. And by the way, also separate each room by separate static meshes as well. Just trust me, a lot of this is going to come from experience. Just understand that working with giant pieces of meshes that you've made with the cube grid makes things difficult, whereas all you've got to do is make them separate. And here's one of the reasons, actually. I'll give you a perfect example. So this is a cube grid thing that we made, right? Well, if I took this and I duplicated it, which is very common when you're creating a level, it's not going to line up perfectly, which I can explain why here in a minute. But let's say you do this, and then you're like, oh, you know, this is the base where the basement goes down, and then this is the living room. So I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to go to the cube grid, right? And then I'm going to select where I want the hole for the basement to start going in. So we clear it. Perfect. Look what happens when I press accept. It duplicated to the previous one. So Again, just trust me, you want things to be as separate as possible until you understand why I'm making them separate. It's one of those things where it's like, don't break the rule until you understand why the rule is there to begin with. Anyway, okay, so we have a floor. Let's go ahead and start adding walls. So on the cube grid, again, nothing is selected. We're going to click on the cube grid. And the wall and the floor can be roughly the same size. I'm not too worried about that. I think we can leave it on the 2 on the power grid. We'll go ahead and go all the way across, and we'll see where we want to stop the wall. Because obviously if we stop it about here, then it's a very short room considering that's the top of the player's head. So we want to go an additional couple feet. So maybe like that. That's a little bit of a tall person, but also not too bad. And of course, if you wanted to double, triple check what this looks like, you could also just place a player start here and boom, go see. But I'll hit accept. And I accidentally skipped one of my rules, which I skip a lot, but I always go back the second I realized I skipped, is go ahead and click on this floor right here. And up here, we're going to rename this. So I like to do a naming convention of CG whenever it's made by the cube grid. So I'll do a CG underscore, and we'll just call it like a living room floor. Then we'll go ahead and grab the wall. We'll do CG underscore living room wall. Now, here is where things get important. If this is nothing but prototyping, leave it like this. That's perfectly fine. You're not going to be using it beyond this. I still think you need to, name this stuff in the hierarchy. However, let's take a look at something else. We've got the living room wall selected. Over here under static mesh, if we click on the browse to blank blah 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 in content browser, you'll notice it's still named the same stuff. So I personally, especially if it's something I'm going to be using, I want to name this. So we're going to do CG underscore living room wall, because it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for you to find this and know what it is, instead of leaving it cube grid tool output 3D FB78BE. If you can remember that, good, but I don't think most of us can. So CG living room wall and CG living room floor. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create one more wall for now. I mean, obviously we need more, but we're going to go ahead and open the cube grid. I'm going to leave it on that power of 2 because this will also be a wall. We're going to go ahead and grab from here to here. And what we'll do is we'll build up. So we're at the same height. We're going to go ahead and hit accept, so that way it looks like this. However, this time I'm going to, with it selected, press cube grid again. And now, actually I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to click on our guy. I'm going to move him a bit closer, guy or gal, whatever you'd like it to be. Then we're going to click on our cube grid wall one more time. Open up the cube grid. And now what I'll do is I will make a door that would fit the player of this size. Now, obviously, if you've got a door static mesh, you should be building around that. However, if you do not have a door static mesh, just using the player's size is a good way to start building out the size of the door. Also, you'll note here, this is not attached. If you're trying to move it and it's jumping too far like this, by the way, all you need to do is simply go up here and change your snap size to a little bit lower. I tend to highly recommend leaving it on a higher snap size unless you absolutely need to move it a very delicate amount. And you'll note here, see how it's still got this little edge? That's because this, if we look over here, is on specifically -27. And I have a feeling because I was moving the floor around, it's not on a solid number. Actually, it is. It's on -40, so that's a little surprising that we're getting that slight edge there. It might have to do in this case with the cube grid size that we're using. Again, the cube grid is not perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this down, and you'll note when I move it down, we're going to get a little bit of overlap. This is not the end of the world as long as it's not visible. So for example, you'll notice it's not visible here, and if we had a floor here, it would also not be visible. The parts you would need to hide are like right here because you can see there's a little bit of overlapping UV and it causes some flashing. Again, it's not that big a deal, especially if you plan on just prototyping. But if you do plan on using it, it's not the end of the world. You can still use it. Just make sure anything that is slightly overlapping is hidden. Get this right where we want it. There we go. Perfect. And now we don't have that little gap anymore. And before we end the episode, let's go double check where I said we could get some materials to start actually making this look good. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-Shift-S. And then I'm going to head over to this website called ambientcg.com. These are Creative Commons 0 materials. Now, they're all specifically made to look realistic, which means they're not stylized. However, something trying to look real can be its own style, and for horror games, that tends to be what people go for. Not all the time. Look at PlayStation X games and all of stuff like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and explore, and I will teach you how to use these. So I'm going to go ahead and look for a nice carpet for our living room that we just created. I don't want to do anything too fancy, so I think I'll probably just pick one of the white carpets. We'll click this one right here. It's the first one. It's nice and easy. I will warn you, obviously the higher up in size you go, the nicer it's going to look. But one, you're giving up performance, which means it's going to be harder on performance, obviously. And two, look how quickly the size of the files get large. We've got 9 megabytes, 30, 106, all the way up to 400, just like that. That was the most wimpy snap of all time. And obviously, if you're doing like a material that needs to be opaque, you can get the PNGs, but again, note the size difference. Translucent? Yeah, translucent. Anyway, because, modern computers are a lot faster, and I'm doing this for the sake of showing you guys, we're gonna go ahead and just grab the 2K ones. I will be honest with you, if you're not sure and you're not going for the highest fidelity possible, just get 1K. I'm telling you, your game size is gonna be a lot smaller and it's gonna run easier. I'm grabbing 2K for the sake of the video because I want it to look nice. So once you download it and extract it, you'll see we have an ambient occlusion, color, displacement. However, we got two different normals and a roughness. So we're going to open up Unreal. We are going to go create a folder for this, which, by the way, note that I broke the rule. How many of you guys caught that? Please leave a comment and let me know. Did you catch it? Were you like, what the hell? We're going to do CG living room door wall, just to be a little bit different because it is a different type of wall. CG living room door wall, like that. We'll go ahead and Control-Shift-S to save all. Then we're gonna go to dark BPs, and content. And because this is something we're pulling in from a third party, I don't put it in dark BPs. Instead, I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call this imported. Inside of imported, I then create a set of different Creative Commons folders so I can keep track of what needs to be attributed to the artist, what doesn't. So Ambient CG is Creative Commons 0. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new folder. We're going to do CC 0. So that just means no attribution is required. And then just for my own sorting sake, I then create an additional folder of whoever gave it to me. So in this case, we're going to create Ambient CG. So now we know that this is Creative Commons 0s and it's from Ambient CG. Let's go back to the folder. As you can see, they call it Carpet 16. I'm going to call it that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. We're going to call it Carpet. Is it 016 or is it just 16? 016. And the reason I do that is because what if I need to download this again or I need to reference it? That's why I name it whatever they name it. So we can go ahead and delete a couple of things here. Let's go ahead and delete the PNG, the MTLX, and the USDC. Then we can go ahead and delete the normal GL. Unreal Engine uses DirectX, so these are the 5 we're going to be using. Not all materials are going to come with all of these, but this just happens to be one that does. So let's go ahead and open up our Carpet 16, and let's drag in our 5 files. Let's go ahead and hit Control Space with our 5 files. And now what we're going to do is we need to put these together so they are a full material. Let's go ahead and right click on the one that specifically says color. And I'm going to create material. Now, to name this, I'm going to type in matte _ carpet 16. And now we know, 1, it's a material, and 2, it is carpet 16. And we're going to open that up. Now, if you've never messed with materials and shaders, this can be a very scary screen. It's still scary to me, and I've been doing this for many, many years. But I'll let you know that I also haven't put a ton of time into it. But regardless, you're not alone. It's fine, and I'm going to teach you the basics. Let's go ahead and open our content drawer again. And the first one we need to look for is we're going to look for the roughness. That's the first one we have available. So if we pull in the roughness, all we need to do is take that RGB and plug it straight in. So before I plug mine in, I want to show you what roughness is doing. If you look at the example we have here of this material, look at the top left. You see how that's got that nice shine to it? However, we all know carpet doesn't shine. Well, most carpet doesn't shine. That's what roughness does. When we plug this in, it's going to tell it how much to shine and reflect light. So I'm going to plug that in. And I guess it is still quite shiny, surprisingly. We'll end up seeing what this looks like. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and hit apply and save. And that's actually what it does. It tells the engine roughly how much to make it shine. It's shining more than I expected. But regardless, that's what roughness is doing. Then what we'll do is pull in the ambient occlusion. So let's go ahead and pull that in. And we will plug that in. However, before I plug in the ambient occlusion, I will tell you what it does. It basically tells light what color to turn into when it bounces off. So whenever you plug in the ambient occlusion, you're not going to see much of a difference. All it's doing is telling the light engine, hey, this is what color I am. So when you bounce off of me, this is roughly the color you're going to get. However, my bad, let's pull this down because I did miss the normal. The normal is the most exciting part, the one that has the DX on it. So the normal is exciting because this is what tells the material how to look 3D. What places to make it look like you're indented and what places to look like you're extruded. So we're going to take this nice blue normal map here and plug it straight into the normal and watch the difference in that display port. Huge. Look, you can see all those dents in there now, like an actual carpet would look. You can see the light even flickering a little bit because my settings are a little low right now. But yeah, so what other one did we still have there? Oh, the displacement. Do not worry about displacement. If you're a more advanced user and you know how to use it, great. I'll let you know. I've worked in this engine for 5 to 6 years. I still don't use displacement. My understanding of it is it's roughly the same as a normal map, just a little bit different in how it's calculated. But I'm almost positive Unreal doesn't even use the displacement. So base, roughness, normal, and ambient occlusion are going to be fine. We're going to go ahead and hit apply and save. All right. So now there's a couple ways we can do this. We can either just drag this onto the static mesh, but a safer way to do it, and it's just good to know how to do it, is over here with the static mesh selected, we can then select a material. So I'm going to click on it here, and with it clicked here, all I have to do is hit this little left arrow, boop, and now, as you can see, we have carpet. Now, we are still in the cube grid, so we've still got this grid here, so I'm going to hit go back to Shift 1. Oh, you know what? That grid has to do with the fact that that's 0 on the axis. So instead, I'm going to press G, and that will get rid of any tools and stuff that are present. So you'll see that we have carpet here. And if yours is looking weird, like let's say yours looks weird or it's too small. Like you can see on mine, it's not bad, but maybe it's a little too small. I'm going to show you how we can actually adjust the size of the material on a cube grid. So let's go ahead and click the static mesh. We're going to hit Shift 5 to open up that modeling mode. And on the left-hand side, we are going to actually move all the way down to UVs. Understand that UVs are essentially a flat image that a texture goes over, but that basically is how your mesh understands how it's supposed to display the material that's on it. So right now, obviously, this is just way too small. So we need to affect the UVs so it changes what it looks like on the model. So if you click Auto UV, or don't click that, or if you did, it's not that big a deal, just hit Control Z. But if you go to Project UVs, you'll see that what it does by default is it makes the projected image the size of one iteration of your material. If that didn't make sense, don't worry. And on the sides, however, you see how it's all stretched? That's because it's using a plane. So on the projection type, let's change this to a box. So now on the sides, see how tiny and stretched it is? And then up top, it's this giant popcorn looking mess because it's too big. So what we need to do is we need to tell the engine, no. This all needs to be roughly the same size all the way around, and we can dictate the size. My recommendation is start with the size of the material you downloaded. So if we click, or if we hover over the texture, you'll see that we have 2048 by 2048. That's pretty big, but you can see that it's 1:1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change all of these to 500. Why 500? Because that means that it's 1:1. Now, this red box is showing you what one iteration of your material is size-wise. So right now, it's actually bigger than the floor, so it's going to look really big down here. What we're going to do is we're going to make this, we're going to try like 300, and we're going to make them all 300, because again, it's 1:1. And now we're getting to a lot better size. So if we look at his foot compared to it, it's still rather large. So we're going to drop this to maybe like 250, 250, 250, and that's looking a lot better. Are you starting to see why you add the mannequin? It's very important. And then because we're using this method, by the way, notice that if you do need the sides to be the right size, they are also being affected. So I think 250 by 250 is about right with this. So I'm going to hit accept, and I'm pretty happy with that. And we're going to hit Control-Shift-S to save all. And don't forget, if you press G, you'll bring back some of those elements that went missing, because G just basically means game mode. You're seeing what it looks like in game. So your homework is to finish building a prototype level, or a level that you actually want, and apply some materials to it. Remember, do not have something selected if you don't want to edit that specific thing with the cube grid. And don't forget down below, if you want to alpha test my game, Chain Guns and Chainmail, there will be a link to the Discord in the description. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.